All right, welcome to the January edition of Virtual Vines. Welcome everyone, I'm Laurin Dorman and I'm joined by Scott Gares, our winemaker here at Old York Cellars. Today we are going to be tasting our 2012 Vidal Blanc and our 2012 Syrah.
Yes.
So a couple of things, we just wanted to talk a little bit about some stuff going on here at the winery. We are proud to have next weekend and the following weekend, the 8th and 9th, 15th and 16th, we're going to be partnering with the Garden State Wine Growers for our annual Wine and Chocolate Weekend. So there'll be wineries throughout the state. They're going to have various things going on, chocolate pairings, live music, things like that. Here at the winery, we are proud to have Laurin Douglas. She is the one who makes the amazing chocolates that we pair with all of our virtual vines, and she is going to be here with an amazing assortment of chocolates. She's making truffles with our splots.
Is she going to do the Cabernet
She's
again?
doing the Cabernet truffles.
Nice. That was great
She's
last year.
also doing, and I got to sample one yesterday. I'm sorry, you weren't here. I got to sample, well, there weren't any for it. There wasn't enough. So she's actually made a truffle with our sparkling wine.
Oh, nice.
And it was fabulous and amazing. So in addition to that, she's going to have her hot chocolate, different barks and bars and caramels and all kinds of chocolates and sweets galore. We're also going to have live music in our Vista room. We're going to have jewelry here from Silpata, and we're also going to have custom labels. So if you're still looking for a really nice Valentine's gift for your sweetheart, come out and you can have it personalized with some special wine labels. So that'll be going on 8th and 9th, 15th and 16th. If you don't have Super Bowl plans and you'd like to come up to the winery for a wine tasting, we will have wings this weekend, and there's also free tastings for all of our Super Bowl ladies on Sunday. Am I allowed to say Super Bowl? Hopefully I won't get in trouble for that.
Yeah.
Big game.
Big game.
Big game.
Big game Sunday.
Yes, exactly. So I wanted to take the opportunity real quick before we get into the wines. We've had such a great response from our virtual vines that we've actually started a Virtual Vines Club. It's a really great opportunity if you love the broadcast and you love the wine to have wines shipped to you bi-monthly for our virtual vine broadcast. It'll have the two wines that we're going to be featuring in the broadcast as well as the chocolates, some food pairing suggestions, and the new thing that we're going to be including also are some recipes. Because a lot of people have been asking us about not just what to pair with the wines, but for actual recipes. So we're going to get some of our partner restaurants to give us some great recipes to go with the wine too.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Delicious.
So if you're interested, you can go to our website, see all the information about our Virtual Vines Club. And so let's get started. I guess today we'll start with the...
Well, first of all, I want to actually talk about our location.
What's that? What?
Well, our new tank room.
Oh yeah, we're doing a whole broadcast from our tank room.
Yeah, well, our other broadcast was from the tasting room.
Yeah, we're making our way around the
Yeah,
winery.
and then we did the Vista room in front of the fireplace, and now we're in the new tank room that's just got finished. So it's a great tank room. It's got excellent things. It's got the press in here, the bottling line.
Everything.
Everything's in here. You can see the tank in here behind us, number 37. So I can't wait.
Yeah, it's beautiful. If you haven't been out to the winery, I think inadvertently, I don't think we did it on purpose, but Scott's right, we have been doing these broadcasts from different locations on the winery property.
Been by accident.
So if you've been tuning in for the broadcasts every other month, you've seen a lot of different views of the winery.
And if you come into the winery, if you don't come in on a day that we're doing the tours, the new tank room is enclosed in glass, so you can see right through, see everything that's going on, see all the equipment.
But we are doing tours every Saturday and Sunday at 2:30. And those are open to the public free of charge. If you want to come out and time your wine tasting and get on the tour, they're really great.
Okay.
So we're starting with the Vidal Blanc. It's really interesting, and Scott, I'm sure you can talk a little bit more about Vidal Blanc, but I always knew that it was a hybrid variety. But I did go online and I found some really interesting information specifically about Vidal Blanc. And for any of our viewers, if you're watching and you're not really familiar with Vidal Blanc, it is a variety that you see grown a lot in this area of the country.
It's the East Coast, the Northeast Coast. It's grown a lot. It handles our winters very well. It's cold hardy, and it's a very vigorous plant. You can get 7 tons to the acre yielding off of it, so you're going to get a lot of fruit to the real estate that you have.
And it's grown not only in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, New York, Canada. They make a lot of ice wine from it.
Ohio State as well. They do a lot of ice wines with Vidal.
And interestingly enough, I was reading, it says They do grow it in North Carolina, Michigan, Virginia, Missouri, and other states. But this was the really interesting part. This grape is also grown just 500 miles south of the Arctic Circle in Sweden, where it's also used to make ice wine. So, I mean, I think that in and of itself speaks to how cold hardy this grape is.
It's got a short growing season, so unlike your Cabernets and your Chardonnays, which need a lot of growing days, the Vidal is harvested usually about the end of September, so you still got a lot of season where you can get good ripeness out of them.
And it seems to be too, and you can speak to this from growing it, it seems to be very resistant to a lot of things that maybe some other grape varieties are susceptible.
It's good against like powdery mildew, downy mildew, phenopsis. It's good against all those. It's, like I said, it's a very vigorous and very hardy plant.
So I just thought that was really interesting, and I thought that I've always said that it, tried to explain it to people as something that's very cold hardy, but I think when you're talking, just short of Arctic Circle, I think that
it's one of my favorite vines, actually. It's my favorite wine to make as well, too. It comes off very nice. It complements everything that we pair it with.
And I think it's becoming one of the most popular wines that we have here at the winery just because of its versatility. It's very crisp. It has a lot of nice acid quality to it, but a lot of fruitiness. I think that it, like you said, it lends itself to so many different dishes. And it can be made in so many different ways, too. It can be made as more of a off-dry white. It can be made very sweet, like more of an ice wine style, or dry, like we do it here at the winery.
Late harvest. Some people do a late harvest with it as well. We do it in a dry style here, and we've done it with several of our chef events that we've paired it with, and that's come out great.
So why don't we pour the wine, and we'll talk a little bit about the Vidal Blanc.
And if anybody at home has gotten any one of these things here, it's called an aroma wheel. They sell it. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it in different books and stuff. They sell it at different trade shows. It's a great piece of equipment. I mean, we love it. When we do our blending classes here at the Vineyard, we give everybody that comes to our blending class, we give them a photocopy of one of these. And it's got everything onto it. Everything, all different flavors, all different characteristics. You see people that on their labels that they'll have description of the wines and stuff. And this will go right through, and you can actually down and pinpoint the characteristics that these have. With the Vidal Blanc, I generally pull up more of like a lemon herbal characteristic.
I mean, first talk about that color. I mean, it's absolutely beautiful. And we've talked about this in other virtual vines events. We talk about holding it up against a nice white paper so you can see it's really light. It's very light in color. It has a nice sort of very light lemon yellow color, very clean. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it sort of comes off the trend is sort of like a Sauvignon Blanc in
very
style.
Similar, yeah.
But it's going to have a little bit more lemon characteristic to it than a Sauvignon Blanc.
Has a wonderful nose. I get like, a little tiny bit of like not too heavy on like the tropical notes, but I do get like a little bit of that tropical sort of flavor profile too.
And very clean, very crisp. And it complements almost everything that we ever paired against. I do chicken with this. I do like an Italian chicken. I marinate the chicken with this before I put it on the grill. It comes out great.
Well, yeah, it's great as a marinade. Some of the food pairing suggestions we have in here, we often recommend it with things, pastas with like a light cream or a butter sauce, light fish, sushi. This is a great for salads, and it will pair really nicely with a salad that has maybe more of like a little bit of a creamier dressing. So like your Caesar salads, your Greek salads. Also, I've paired this a lot because it has a lot of the lemon and citrus quality you're talking about. It's great with things like pesto. Artichoke, people are thinking Super Bowl, artichoke dip, it would be great with that. So your shellfishes, things like that.
Yeah, any of your lighter dishes and stuff like that. And it's got enough balance to it that it can pair up against a lot of your heavier dishes.
Yep, and it'll do well with like a lot of your Asian foods, but nothing, just nothing that was really too spicy.
Yeah.
So you kind of want to keep a little light on the spice.
But with the fermentation, when I did the fermentation on this, it was a cool start fermentation. I peaked it up around 75 degrees Fahrenheit, and then I brought it back down to about 62 degrees to finish off. The residual sugar on the Vidal is 0. Fermented complete dryness.
This is completely dry.
Yeah.
And it finishes so clean. There's no sort of residual left over. I mean, it has a nice long finish, but it finishes nice and clean, which is why this is such a great wine for food. I mean, we really talk about it a lot when our customers come into the tasting room. We say this is a great wine. It's super versatile. You can, have it with so many different types of foods. And like you said, not only use it as a marinade, but use it as, wine that you cook with, and it'll pair beautifully with your meal.
With this one here, I did no malactic fermentation, and we have talked about malactic fermentations and some of our other things. We'll get to that with the Syrah, but this one had no malactic fermentation gone through. So this is just an initial fermentation gone, the sugar fermentation that we call it. The yeast I used was a Premier Cuvée, which is a sort of an all-around type of a yeast. It keeps those good characteristics into it, nice crisp notes onto it. When it came in, it was just under 21 bricks, so it's about just under 12% alcohol. pH of it was about 3.55, so it's balanced really nicely.
And Laurin actually, because a lot of times people think, oh, you can't pair chocolate with wine, but or with white wines anyway. And so I think that this is a perfect example. Laurin actually paired it with a Hawaiian single origin milk chocolate with macadamia nuts and sea salt. So I think, and having tried this chocolate from her before, I think when you have a wine that has a little bit more acid, you want to pair it with a chocolate that has a little bit more milk fat. Mm-hmm. So you're going to want to sort of stay away from your extra darks and your darks. You're going to want to go with more of your milk chocolate, so you have something to sort of counteract the acid, that creaminess. Something's going to be a little bit more buttery on it. Yeah, the milk fat. And then with the nuts and the sea salt, it's a wonderful pairing.
It comes out very nice.
Plus, this is a really great price wine. This one is in our tasting room for about $15, so it's a great value as well. So if you're stopping by or coming into the tasting room, we highly recommend that you try our 2012 Vidal Blanc.
Yeah, very universal. It's one of my favorites. It's fun to make. It's the aromas that come off the tanks during fermentation is just great.
And it is very local, so if you're looking for a really great local wine as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we can move on to the Syrah.
Sure.
So the second wine that we have tonight is our 2012 Syrah. Some people call it Shiraz. We call it Syrah here at the winery. It is the same grape. We do get asked that a lot as well. I have a lot of people that come into the tasting room that say, oh, is that the same thing as Shiraz? It is the same grape as Shiraz. It is not, however, the same grape as Petit Syrah, because a lot of people think, and that is a completely separate variety.
Yep.
So no sort of similarity there. Couple little things about Syrah. It is grown a lot in the northern Rhone region of France. Sometimes you will see it there as a single varietal like we do here, but a lot of times it's blended with two other grapes called Grenache and Mourvedre. And you will also see, if you've been in a wine shop or wherever and you've seen an Australian wine that says GSM, that's basically the same blend. So they do blend it a lot in Australia as well. And a lot of the wineries just put, GSM on there. That just means Grenache, Syrah, Mourvedre. But we do it here as a single variety.
Yeah, I do tend to leave sometimes our Vintners blend, when we had the Vintners blend, that did have 30% of the Syrah into it when we did have that, and that was an award winner. I mean, this one is too. We just released it not that long ago, and this has already won an award.
Yep.
Bronze in the San Francisco.
Yeah, and this was our double, or was it 2000?
No, that was a 2010. That 2010, was a double gold.
Yep. This one of the things I really liked about this one, and I was really excited when I got to come and taste it out of the tanks with you that day, is I think for me, this vintage is the most sort of old world in style. This is a very elegant wine. It has a very nice balance of fruit and spice. It's soft without being light. So for me, I think this makes it very sort of food friendly, very versatile. It's not too heavy. I know when I'm pairing wines with food, I have a tendency to gravitate towards wines that are not so high in alcohol. They're heavy enough to stand up to the food, but they're not so heavy that they overpower it. So I remember being really excited when I tasted this because
Yeah.
I thought it was very, very elegant in the way that you made
that
it.
was real nice, and it came out good, and I was happy with the bronze out of the San Francisco one.
I think it
it's-
deserved more of a bronze.
I know. I mean, out of 5,800 wines that entered that competition.
Well, it's just one of many. You just added another medal to your cap.
Well, that was the first medal
And
competition I went into.
I will take this opportunity to announce, because Scott won't say anything, that he did, and it's coming up in May. Our May Virtual Vines is going to feature our 2012 Merlot, which Scott won a gold out in San Francisco for. So we are really excited. It'll be officially released in May, but he did win a gold medal for the 2012 Merlot. So join in for the virtual vines, come out and get the wine in May. It's a beautiful wine and a beautiful example of our winemakers' wines here. So, why don't we get some wine in the glass so that we can talk a little bit. And while we're getting some wine, this wine is, you're going to see it's a very, very nice sort of garnet color. And
that's from a blend of the two different styles of grapes. I do get some grapes that come in. Half of them are grown here on the premises.
Yeah.
And then I do bring in some other ones. So you're going to get a little bit of that lightness characteristic from ours, and you're going to get that fruity characteristic from ours.
Yep.
I mean, our vines here are 4 years old, the Syrah. So you're going to get a little bit lighter, a little bit more fruit character out of ours because
Yep.
they're not as old vines.
Yeah, because a lot of times you're used to seeing Syrah with like this, or Shiraz with like this really sort of deep inky like quality to it. This one in the glass is like an absolutely beautiful light garnet color. And when I stick my nose in that, I'm getting just so much luscious red fruit. It's just absolutely beautiful. Definitely some cherry.
I get a little bit of blackberry onto it.
A little blackberry.
And I get some black currant.
I get a tiny, tiny little bit of the pepperiness to it, just like a little
Just a
hair.
little bit.
And not to be like a total cork dork, but maybe a little bit more of like a white pepper as opposed to like a black pepper.
It's done a little bit light on the oak, so it's about a medium oaked. So
Yep.
we don't do real heavy on the oak because I like when we were doing the fermentation. This spent 20 days on skins. It was a cool fermentation, 63 degrees, which is a little bit cool for reds on the fermentation. A lot of people like to bump them up to about 75. I kept this one about 63 during ferment. 20 days on the skins, and it came out great.
So you see, like, a lot of times people pair Syrah with things like various different types of game, but also lamb, grilled meats, veggies. I saw a food pairing that they described Syrah as being perfect with like a meat lover's pizza. I thought that was great because like everybody's wondering, like, there's pizza and then there's meat lover's pizza. But some of the other things that are great to pair the wine, if you have the pairings, London broil, meatier fish, which is really nice. I think this too would lend itself to a more meaty fish. So you could go the salmon route with this. You could go like a grilled tuna with this because I think the lightness of it.
Yeah, even if you did something blackened or whatever, if you want to do that, it's going to have a good spice to it. It's going to be able to stand up onto it. Again, this is one that it's going to have that soft characteristics. We talk about the ML, malactic fermentation. And that's where, compared to the Vidal with the Syrah, this is going to have a malactic fermentation, so it's not going to have the acidity that the Vidal had. It's going to be a little bit softer, a little bit fuller in the background, a little bit fuller on the palate, that you want to call it.
I definitely get that cherry, very, very bright cherry right there when you taste it, yeah. And it's nice too because it has, in my opinion, again, which makes it really great with food, it has like the perfect amount of tannin. It definitely is there and you can feel a little bit of that drying, but it's not overly tannic, which is perfect. It's the perfect balance of acid, fruit, and tannin. It's absolutely beautiful.
The nice thing about this one is this one compared to the 2010, because we don't grow a lot of it, I only did like 2 tons of this, so we didn't have a whole lot to play with. So I did things a little bit different than in 2010. This one I used a little bit different yeast. I used a D254 on this one, and when I put the malactic culture in it, a lot of people do it right at pressing, or they do it when they inoculate for the first pressing. I waited about a week and a half for this one before I put the malactic in.
Yeah.
Gave it a little bit extra time to breathe, and that's definitely showed up on this.
Yeah, I really have seen a lot of the Syrah. That I think this is a perfect example of different vintages sort of giving you a different product too, because our Syrahs have really varied so much from 2009, 2010. This one, they have all been very, very different.
Getting a little bit more complexity to them.
Yeah.
Did this one just a little bit longer on the oak, not real long, but just enough to let the fruit characters still speak out for themselves. The fruit on this one, it was about 24 bricks. Bricks is a measurement of sugar in the grapes when it comes in. That's how we know how sweet the grapes are when they're ripe. So, and the pH was about 3.4. So when it finished up, it was 14.3% in alcohol.
Which you don't even notice.
No.
When you're tasting this, because I usually will pick the alcohol up really quickly, but this is so perfectly balanced that I don't even notice that what I would consider to be a little bit higher in alcohol
It's got all
than I would
forward.
prefer, but it's perfect. So let's see, what did we pair it with? The chocolates. This one is, that's what I thought, Madagascar single origin, 65% dark chocolate. So if you're really into chocolate, you'll notice that they've started now, because people are really starting to get into pairing chocolates and very specific chocolates with foods, that a lot of times now you're going to see on packages, even in the baking aisle of the grocery store, they have the percentages of the cocoa listed on the packaging. Oh, somebody's asking, Todd is asking how long we've been making Syrah. From the very beginning.
Yeah, 2009. 2009 was our first vintage here at the vineyard. We did a 2009. We did a 2010.
Yep.
We didn't do the 11.
Didn't do
and
the
now
11.
we have the 12.
Yep. And we thank you guys for sending our questions. We really appreciate it, because as we're going through, we're just kind of talking and giving you our opinions and what we like, and Scott sort of sharing his knowledge about how he makes all the wines. But we'd love to hear your questions. If you're out there having having the wines with food, or you have friends over and you guys sort of have some questions or thoughts, please send them to us. It's #virtualvines if you're on Twitter. You can also join us on Facebook. Oh, we have another question. Bob Rorty wants to know the difference between acid, tannin, and fruit taste. So when you're tasting the wine, the acid is going to be, it's the easy way to describe it is what makes your mouth water. So it's anytime, if you've ever had like an acid candy, or you've taken a bite of
A green apple.
of a lemon, your mouth starts to water, and that's the acid.
And it's a little bit more in the front of your tongue, where the tannin is a little bit more in the back of your palate. And it's sort of more, the tannins more coats your entire palate, where the acids like the Vidal is a little bit more up front.
Right. And the tannin is sort of that drying sensation in your mouth. So if you've ever had a really dry red wine, it almost feels, a lot of people have described it as sort of like a cotton in your mouth, where you feel it kind of drying out your tongue.
Felt.
Yeah.
Sort of like felt.
But the thing is, you kind of need it all. And whenever you taste a wine that's like too skewed one way or the other, so if you've had wines that are too fruity and they don't have enough acid, they tend to taste very flat. So, but conversely, if you have too much acid, you just pucker and you don't really taste anything else. And so, and if you have obviously too much tannin, again, that's not really pleasant. So one of the things that Scott has to do is really balance all three of them. You need all three, but you don't want one to sort of overpower the other.
And that's sort of how it comes down to why this one was 20 days on the skins during fermentation. When the grapes come in, they're all full of fruit. You're eating the grapes as you're going through the crusher, and you're putting them into the press, and that's basically your lunch and dinner for the day when you're a winemaker. Because you come in at sun up and you're out of here at sundown, and you're still doing things, running around.
A little bit of beer too, thrown in there too.
Just thrown in there once in a while. But when the grapes come in, it's all fruit. So we talk about doing like the red fermentation, 20 days on the skins. Just to recap on that a little bit, if anybody's heard our last broadcast, it's when we we run them through a crusher destemmer. We take the stems off of them and we put them into a tank. Number 37 here, this is a 1,000-gallon tank, 1,000-gallon 60 actually. This will hold 4.5 tons of grapes inside of it. What we do is we do a punch down and a pump over. With a large mallet, I do a punch down from the top, and I do a pump over. I take the juice from the bottom and I pump it back over the top, and I saturate the skins. Because what happens is during fermentation, the skins start to float during the fermentation, and they lose contact with the juice. So I push them back down into the juice to get the contact. I do this twice a day. I do it in the morning, and then I do it at night. So we do the punch downs and pump overs. So every day I'm testing the wine to see where it's going to be balanced, because at first it's all up front, it's all fruit. So after the fermentation, after it starts to get dry, you start to get the color, you start to get the tannins, you start to get all the characteristics from the skins, the seeds, the must that's left in the tanks. So once it gets to a certain point where I want it, then I take it out and then I press it and and then it goes into another tank, and then I see how it's reacting, and then I add the malolactic culture to it to soften it up.
We do have another question. Educated Grape is asking, is there any new oak used in the aging of the Syrah?
Yes. Yeah, it's new oak is used onto it. We try and do it. That's why it's lightly on the oak.
Yeah,
because
it's definitely light, because it's not. Sometimes new oak can be very overpowering.
Yeah.
This is not.
Yeah, when you use a new oak barrel, sort of the first year that you use it, you're only using it for like 4 months.
Yeah.
Then the second year that you use the oak, you're up to maybe about 6.5 to 7 months. Then once it gets seasoned, then you're almost aging stuff in there for about a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
It all depends on your characteristics that you're looking for. But the longer you use it, the more you have to age it in there. Once it gets to a certain point, you either use it as a planter or you send it out, get it, sanded inside, scraped out, and then re-toasted, and then.
But I think this one would have been very easy to over oak, because it is very light, very elegant. But I think that's what makes it great. So one of the other things that I really like about it too is that, like I said, it's not overpowering. And I guess the question too was, we were talking about the balance between the tannin and the acid and the fruitiness. And one of the things that's really nice about this is, even though you did do the malolactic fermentation, it's still enough acid, I think, that makes it pair nicely.
Yeah, it's got a nice fruit characteristic to it. That's why I like to leave it that way. Let the grapes speak for themselves is what I always stress here. With both the Vidal, the Syrah, any of the grapes we do here, I like to have the grapes speak for themselves and have the grapes taste like the way they're supposed to. And I don't try and mask them up with a bunch of oak and have a lot of acidity and stuff, because then you don't have no flavor onto it.
So we're going to wrap things up, but before we do, we've had a fun sort of contest going on here at the winery. Basically, we've been telling people, when you come in, tweet a picture, throw it on your Twitter page, and we're going to be selecting a winner. And we said you got to have to tune in. We're going to select a winner, and the winner gets a free Virtual Vines package for the next Virtual Vines, which will be it's March 27th. That'll be the next Virtual Vines. And we're going to be, which is a Thursday, and we're going to be tasting the 2012 Pinot Gris and the 2012 Cabernet Sauvignon.
Nice.
So Scott, if you would like to select a tweet and taste winner.
Me?
Oh, you want me to do it? Oh, goody.
I'm shaking.
We thank everybody for participating. It's been really fun to see all the pictures. The winner is Mary Ann Fisher, and her Twitter handle is LuckyDog44. And she is a lucky dog. She won a Virtual Vines package. So congratulations, Mary Ann. Thank you for sending us your picture of your visit here at the winery. We hope you had a good time and enjoyed your tasting. We appreciate you participating, and we will notify you about how you will be getting your Virtual Vines package.
And I thank you out to, I know Wine Compass is out there. I
Yes.
thank him. Todd is tweeting in with questions.
We've had the Educated Grape send us a question. And we know some of our other wine writers, bloggers, we appreciate everything. I know Sam in the City, she was watching. Winebeck, he's watching. She's watching. We also have Linda from Giggles, Goggles, and Gulps. She is watching tonight as well and participating. Lori's Chocolates. We want to thank her so much. She provides the chocolates for every single Virtual Vines, and these are amazing. She hand makes everything. She's out of Doylestown. You can find her on lorischocolates.com, and she hand makes all of these chocolates for us based on the wines that we're making, and she really we were just talking before the broadcast that we would love to have her, so I'm gonna try to see if I could possibly get Lori to come out for like the next one
That
and
would
talk
be
about the chocolate. She's amazing.
She'd be fun.
Yeah.
And we usually have her at our festivals too.
And
She's usually at our festivals.
She's at our festivals, and like I said, she'll be here the February 8th and 9th for the Wine and Chocolate Weekend here with all of her different confections. So we're really, really excited about our partnership with Lori.
Yeah, and her hot chocolate usually at our fall festivals.
Yeah,
are big.
and she makes all of her hot chocolate. So it's, if you love it, you can buy it. She has a dark chocolate one that's just amazing to die for, and it's perfect when it's like super cold like it is now. So anyway, thank you, Scott. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Make sure you tune back in March 27th for our next edition. Like I said, we'll be doing the 2012 Pinot Gris and the 2012 Cabernet. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good night.